What's up, guys? Zach Tourist here with the one and only Christopher Cruz to go over the newest release of DecoNetwork version 8.610. How's it going, Chris?
Hey, Zach, doing good. How about yourself?
Good. Chris, we do a few of these every year. Deco's never finished, it's always updating. And this release has some really great features. Typically, when we do our fall release, it's a lot of general updates, improvements, and also a lot of fixes. As the software grows more and more, we're always making tweaks and refining and small improvements. Chris, one thing that really opened my eyes when I joined the DecoNetwork team is how sophisticated adding one new feature is to the platform, as there is a large team of developers and us giving feedback. And to add one little feature can take a lot of brain power. And then what really makes it most complicated, Chris, is the software's 20 years old, and it's a big puzzle to come together. But guys, I've used the software for 15 years. I've watched it evolve personally tremendously over the years, and we're never done, Chris. But really excited to go over this new update. We're going to start with some front end website, then we'll go into some new website backend features, some admin features, and then business hub updates. So let's start with the front end, Chris. One of
Sure,
my
let's take a look.
cool new updates is a new widget, which is a sales goal. So for those who don't know, most of us use what we call affiliate sites in DecoNetwork. There is a campaign feature which allows, a campaign. Typically we set a goal and we're trying to get to that goal in order to fulfill those jobs. Well, with now print on demand, ETF, rarely do we need to actually reach a goal to in order to feel comfortable producing it, because we're not typically screen printing. We're going to digitally print it. Well, this allows us to create some incentivization. How do we get a group to feel like we're working towards that goal? Well, we can set a goal based on the number of orders, the store earnings, the total revenue. So let's say, hey, our goal is to do $1,000 in sales between today and next week. We have a progress bar here, right, Chris, that will update based on whatever variable we're tracking, whether it be the number of orders or the total sales that we've done, right?
That's right. And like you said, this something similar to this has already been available on the platform through the campaign stores, but a regular affiliate store comes with a lot more flexibility on how you showcase those products, what additional content you may show there. And so bringing a little bit of that functionality to your typical regular affiliate store is going to give everybody a little bit more flexibility.
Absolutely. I mean, again, progress, that dynamic aspect is definitely very appealing when you have a for-profit retail store, especially. Okay, here's one, Chris, that I've really liked because I try to avoid using custom code whenever possible. But one thing I commonly see is when we list products, it's very common not to have the text centered. It's very common to have it listed on the left. So within here, we have text align left. I'm telling you, it sounds small, guys, but that's a nice little improvement. And that'll work really wherever we have these listing widgets, right, Chris? So whether it be blank products, pre-decorated products, designs, we can change that left align, center align, right align, right?
That's right.
Cool. All right. So here's another one. Chris, when we have a pre-decorated product, we will create that product. So let's come back here. And when we create a pre-decorated product and we allow personalization, so when we allow personalization, the customer can make a very simple tweak. And when they make that tweak, we want the artwork to be dynamic, or essentially change in price potentially. So let's do this. Let's grab a polo. And for those who don't know, when we create a pre-decorated product, we can allow personalization. And when we allow personalization, we can allow the customer to do some type of simple edit, whether that be swapping the actual design, removing the design, or changing the color of the design. It often comes down to the process that we're doing it for and the file type. But for embroidery, this is where we see the biggest change where, okay, I added my artwork, I'll choose my color and so forth. I can allow personalization, allow the customer to swap it. But big thing to remember here, this design for embroidery has X amount of stitches. And when we price embroidery, it's almost always based on stitch count. So when we do this, if we want to allow the customer to swap this design with a different design, and that new design has a different stitch count, the pre-decorated price will adapt dynamically immediately. This was already going on with print. Embroidery struggled a little bit. Chris, that's all correct, right? Yeah, explain that correctly.
Yep, that's 100% right. We did already have this functionality in place for print processes. There was an issue with it not working correctly for embroidery, so we've gone in and implemented a fix so that it's working the same across all decoration methods.
So do you see how we went from, can't remember what that last price was, 25.93, and we'll swap it 26.23. You see it change. We've always seen that visualization just like that, but this wasn't always changing based on stitch count in this variable for embroidery. Okay, Chris, let's keep going on. How about the design tool? Let's go customize a design. And this is actually a bad example because it's embroidery, and I don't let anybody just choose any embroidery color, sorry, under the sun. But if we add text, for example, we've always had the ability to put in an RGB or a CMYK value. What we haven't had is the ability to put in a hex code, also known as HTML. So what I often do, Chris, anybody wants to know, Google Chrome, this color picker tool, it's very handy. And if I'm on the page and let's say, hey, I want that color to match this part of the design, well, I could be hovering over anything. So I'll take that blue and I could get the RGB value and I could plug it in. That's how I've done it for years. But instead of copying three colors, I just copy one. It's handy. And that's available wherever the designer is, including in Business Hub. Okay, next, multi-factor authentication for advanced security. We all know that security is extremely important, and it seems like somebody's always trying to get into your information. So within a staff account, we can go in there and we can require multi-factor authentication when logging in. We can also do it essentially the same way within a customer's account. Now, Chris, can you explain what exactly this means?
Yeah, so it's going to add that additional layer of confirmation from the end user when they're logging in to authenticate that they are, in fact, the person logging in. We've integrated this with essentially any authenticator app. So there's, for example, Google Authenticator on Apple devices. The built-in passwords application has that functionality to generate two-factor authentication codes. So as part of the setup process, the first time that individual logs in with their account after the feature has been enabled, they'll be able to scan a QR code through their Authenticator app and complete the setup process. And then every time they're logging in, they'll go to their Authenticator app, look up that code, type it into the login page, and that'll, again, give them that second confirmation that it is, in fact, them logging in.
It really is a second step verification
Right.
method. Okay. So, next, Chris, display borders around non-rectangular decoration areas. So, within products, if you didn't know, we have all types of product, essentially shapes, bounding boxes for the artwork. And one that's pretty become common for stickers and all types of other shapes if we were using this rectangle, we would see that rectangle on the design tool. You could see this rectangle here being the bounding box. But if it was a circle, so if I added a new area, you don't often use this on a shirt, but let's say that you wanted the left chest to be a hoop, circle hoop. If you were really determined for this, I'll say this is 4 by 4. I could put this here. Let's take out the left chest version. And this was always already possible, but the box to like let the customer know, hey, you've got to keep the artwork within this area. When it was a circle, it wasn't doing that. Now it does. So if you're using the circle or the rounded square edges, you can now display that bounding box rather than the customer just taking their artwork and it cropping, which it does exactly work as you need it to. Um, it'll now show that shape outline as well. So if I go
Yeah, it's
start
just a little bit
design.
of additional feedback for the end user, so that they know, essentially what part of the product they can decorate within.
Yep, you can see that circle right there. Okay. So, Chris, next we have store level notice. I love this. So, I mean, for at least 10 years, guys, you could come in here and you could do a global store notice. And I still like this ability. So, if we wanted to communicate something across all stores on our Deco Network account, we could add a bar of information at the very top of the website. The problem was I couldn't control which site used this message and so forth. So what we now have is within a website, we can go into store configuration, store notice, and we can add um, information here. Now, why do I say information? Well, it's a text field, and yes, I can type text here. But whatever you have here also has HTML going on. So let's say that you wanted a rolling banner. Well, there's HTML widgets that or snippets that you can create from third-party tools and so forth. And if you come in the source, you can copy and paste it here, and you can get pretty cool uh, notices in this case or messages, whether it again be that rolling ticker across the top and so forth. Now, make sure it works, make sure it's responsive and everything. But this is really great that we can easily add information to display at the very top. So if you do this notice, notice here, notice on bottom. So the notice here will be at the very top of the page. Notice here, down here, notice on bottom.
Yeah, and there's
Chris,
also, if you notice, an option below each field to set the background for that section, the background color. So if you want a different background color, we tried to kind of go in and enhance it so that for the people that don't necessarily know HTML or don't want to deal with HTML, this is now a rich text editor. So you can go in there and make significant style changes to how that's going to appear.
very cool. Very easy to work with too, Chris. Um, okay, next, this is a Shopify integration update. So if you're using the Shopify integration tool to bring orders over from Shopify into Deco, based on what plan you were using with Shopify, you may run into this hurdle of having orders come directly from Shopify into Deco. And now Deco has applied some updates to make this possible when you're on one of those lower Shopify plans, specifically that starter basic plan. Is that about right, Chris?
That's right. Yeah. So the implementation is a little bit different for those more basic plans, but we were able to get it done so that even those shops running the lower plans can still auto push those orders whenever they're ready to be processed.
Which again, I find to be very important with the Shopify integration For everybody out there, essentially you're doing print on demand. It's all about speed. It's all about automation. So this just really helps that integration become more automated if you're on that starter or basic plan. Websites. Chris, on some accounts, you start getting a lot of websites and it starts becoming overwhelming of being able to find the right one. I can quickly search, but I really do like the advanced search and all of our new fields that we can sort and filter to find that site or group of sites.
Yep, we did get feedback from some, like you said, larger members with tons of stores that they're, having difficulty kind of identifying what stores they should keep around. So hopefully these fields will kind of help them identify which stores may no longer be taking sales or maybe never took sales, whatever the case is. Um, and we may continue to add additional fields in the future as we get feedback, but some good additions for now.
Very much so. Being able to just look at that range, what stores have made sales in the past year. Um, Very powerful. Okay, Chris, probably the best update of 8.610. I say that just because, I mean, I know a lot of licensees, users, DecoNetwork members are going to love this, and that is custom fields. Custom fields are a great way to gather additional information and or upcharge the customer. So something like, hey, we're going to do a name. So let's just say name on back. Well, with the last update, Chris, we made it so that even a text field can actually have a price influence. So let's say that if the customer wants their name, come on, Demi. When say we're going to charge $5 to put a name on the back. Okay, great. What is new? What is really powerful is the ability to come over here and say, oh, by the way, I don't want this on products by default. I want it specifically available on this site by default. Now, let's back up. When you make a custom field, I personally don't suggest turning it on by default and requiring it here. Because if you do that, you're turning that custom field on for all products everywhere. What you really want to typically do is if you create a custom field, you either want to turn that on within a product or a product group. So let's say that I came into product groups. I want that field on all apparel items or all headwear items. Products are put into groups. Within that group, we have the rule for custom fields. So within the custom field here, I could say, okay, name on back applies to all apparel products, which that's what I just did right there. But remember, within the custom field itself, I can say, okay, just because I turned it on, I made it possible for all of those products. It's only going to come into play when we're actually on this site. Did I summarize that all pretty well, Chris?
That's right, Zach. And yeah, I would say, this definitely adds an additional layer of flexibility, also an additional layer of complexity, but this has been a big ask for a long time. So I think, like you said, everyone's going to be pretty excited about this. It's going to eliminate a lot of additional work that has been required up until now with creating additional product copies if you wanted fields on one store and not on another. So now you can continue using that same single copy of a product, and the fields will, just be available where they need to.
Yep. No, Chris, I remember asking about this a couple years ago, and you told me it sounds easy. It's extremely difficult for the developers to implement, but I'm really glad because these custom fields, um, I don't want to say they're a get out of jail free card, but they just give you a lot of flexibility. And I've been in accounts where we have multiple clones of products because, hey, this product allows a name and number. This one is just normal. So, yeah, it really does virtually eliminate the need for those clones to have that flexibility of when a custom field is used or not. There is also a quick little update as well with that, Chris, which is you can hide fields from displaying on pre-decorated products, but no longer by default. So if I go onto the view pre-decorated product page, you do have the ability to hide a pre-decorated or a custom field, but now by default, moving forward, it's going to be on by default, right, Chris?
So the change here, this is an old option. I forget if we added it, I think maybe earlier this year to show or not or hide custom product fields. What we were running into is people were hiding custom fields, but then there were fields that were set to required.
Wired.
So,
Yeah. And it's like, well, now we have a catch 22. We can't do
right.
this.
You can't add the item to the cart because the required field is not
Isn't
visible,
there?
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So we've essentially adjusted this so that if a field is required, it's going to be visible regardless of whether you have it set to hide fields. Even
Okay.
if you have it set to hide them, required ones are always going to be visible.
Makes sense. Okay. Cool. All right. Let's go back into the admin settings. So within the admin settings, Chris, rush order fees. The rush order fees in Deco are very powerful. I mean, there's a lot going on in here. Hey, we have a minimum, we have a maximum, we have a cutoff time. Are we basing it on the decoration price, the blank price? What's the minimum fee? We could control store availability. What's new is we now have more control over where else it applies to. Does it apply to the digitizing? Does it apply to the screen setup, the artwork job? Um, this is what's new to the rush order fee section, right?
That's right.
Okay. Added option to set DMARC record against custom order reply email. So, Chris, the best way I've always just the way I have always described it, I don't know if it's the best way, is we want to put in an SPF record here. We need to create an SPF record wherever we bought our domain. So in my case, GoDaddy. So I went into GoDaddy and I put in the SPF record. So if you want to know, here's our IP address that we're going to use for the SPF. Um, when you set up that order reply email, what you're doing is when we send an email out of Deco, we're making it look like it's coming from us, not some generic DecoNetwork email that is more likely to be flagged as spam and go into your customer's spam inbox. So, highly suggest configure the order reply email, set up that SPF record. But, Chris, it's not a, I mean, it's still possible that emails are going to slip into someone's spam inbox. These days, I get like 10 to 1 spam to actual good emails. So down here, publish DKIM on my custom domain. So it looks like we're going to add another value to help enhance this record. Is that fair?
Yeah, so you can think of it essentially as an additional layer beyond SPF, whereas SPF is, the most basic authentication. DKIM is that next level. And so for the receiving mail server, it's that additional assurance that the email was sent from the person that specifies in the email headers.
Okay. So to sum it up, guys, if you want to decrease the amount of emails you send out of Deco going into your customer spam inbox, configuring the order reply email with the SPF and then the DKIM is going to really help. Okay. We have a few updates here in production and order settings. So one of them, Chris, is the way we display the currency. If you're here in the States, the dollar sign comes before. But DecoNetwork is an international company with users all over the world. And that currency is not always at the beginning, Chris. So if you're in Europe and so forth, this really allows you to move that currency where you need it to be throughout the software.
Yep, and that's going to apply in Business Hub as well as on all of your order related documents like the order worksheet, production worksheet, things like that.
Because within a store, you can control it already, right, Chris?
That's right, for the display on the front end.
Okay, so it's been possible for a long time there, but in the back end is where we have this new rule. Also down here, we have the ability to maintain original ship by date for submitted internet orders. Chris, can you explain what exactly that means?
Yeah, so we had feedback from a few members that when they take orders in, they consider that original ship by date as being locked in, and if they need to go in make edits to that order, they don't want that ship by date to change. Let's say maybe they changed a product which might have slightly different availability. They want to still keep that promise to their customer as far as the original ship by date. So this option will maintain those original ship by dates. Of course, the operator still has access to go in and say, in this case, let's go ahead and update the ship by date. We won't be able to get the product in time, but for those that want it, the option is there to go ahead and lock those down.
Okay. Um, Chris, shipping methods. Shipping is trickier than a lot of us give it credit for. The best way I can describe shipping to everybody is it's two steps. Step one, we got to come up with a price to charge the customer. Step two is once we have an order, it's time to actually buy and print the label. Those are two different things. And you can use one piece of software, ShipStation, to do both. But ShipStation updated over the past year and it got much more expensive to be able to calculate those live shipping rates. Now, I highly recommend to anybody out there. I use ShipStation every day in my shop. I've used it for years with Deco. It really makes buying and printing labels easier. All of it's automated and my rates are phenomenal. But I was not about to pay hundreds of dollars more to be able to calculate the correct amount to charge the customer. Instead, we can come to manage live shipping carriers. And over here in manage live shipping carriers, you can then integrate with FedEx, Post Office, UPS, stamps.com, and ShipStation. So you can select these. What's new is earlier this year, UPS has a new integration. So maybe you had gotten an email that says, hey, we can't calculate UPS rates anymore. Make sure you're not using UPS Legacy because UPS essentially got rid of that. So if I came into UPS, I can come into Carrier, put in my account number, and when I connect, it's going to ask me to log in with UPS. If I want to do it for the post office, so we have a new integration here, connect with USPS, put in your ID, your client secret, and then you can choose the shipping methods from the post office. So first class, priority, flat rate. I'll be able to control that and determine the rates and so forth. But I don't care what your shipping strategy is. If you're going to calculate it based on, hey, we're going from here to there, it's going to be based on the weight and so forth. We really want to try to use the live shipping carriers integration whenever it is possible for you. Because this is going to heavily be also based on your region. Here in the States, UPS, FedEx, Post Office, all really easy. ShipStation, very powerful, just a little bit more expensive, Chris, but it is a great option for, especially if you really need that live shipping calculation. Chris, did I sum it up decent enough?
Yeah, yeah. So big takeaway I would say is if you are an existing user of the USPS integration, keep an eye on this update. You may need to go back in to manage your live shipping methods and switch to the new one. So if you have the existing one, you'll see it listed as legacy. You'll want to switch over to the new one, and that's going to require some new credentials, which you'll be able to get from your USPS account.
Perfect. All right, Chris. Next is if we have a customer that is tax exempt, um, we now can put in here a reason why they're tax exempt. So I could say school. I could put in tax ID 123, um, their vendor's license, whatever I need to put in here. I can then have that be pushed when I sync with QuickBooks. Correct?
That's right. Yeah. So primarily, this was added for QuickBooks. They've added that as a requirement when syncing orders for tax exempt customers. But yeah, in the future, we may be able to kind of do some reporting on that as well. Maybe on the, I don't think we're, for example, currently included in the customer export, but that may be something to look into for the future.
Very cool. Here's another one I really like. Multiple designs can now be uploaded within a customer's account. So if I come in here and I go to add design, choose file, it would always be you can upload this one. Well, let's upload, let's see if I can choose a couple. I probably need them in a group. Let's do a screenshot from ChatGPT. And now that's a gigantic blanket image. Let's see, Chris, what do we got? We've got a logo and a JPEG. But we can upload a ton of images and designs all at once. The thumbnail might take a second, but it's also a great way to store all of that artwork because at any point I can come here and download it out. The way I look at it is Deco's one of the best hosting values you will find on the internet. The amount of websites I can host for $300 a month and the amount of artwork and designs and everything I don't need to be using Google Drive necessarily, backing it up. Very powerful, Chris.
Yeah, so this will speed up, especially for new DecoNetwork members coming on who want to import their existing client information. Import your customers through CSV and then bulk add their existing designs.
Chris, when we have a company, we have a hierarchy or we have multiple contacts. So typically, when we have a company, over on the account side over here, we would have our ability to add a contact and then assign their role. Well, it's no longer here. It's over in this tab at contacts. And what I really like about this, Chris, is now I can filter at the top based on these parameters, especially if I'm using the allow. I have a store in which every person placing an order in there is actually underneath the company. This list can get pretty long. So these filters really become handy by moving it over here.
Right. So easier management of those contacts for company accounts. And then the options to add new contacts are moved over to the right under the company options panel.
Oh, that makes really more sense to have it over there. All right, Chris, when we set up a customer or a company on terms, for example, net 30, by default, it starts at 0. And before the update, 0 meant infinity. We really hadn't set, we're not going to cut you off until we put a number in here. Now, the logic has changed. If it's 0, you don't have the ability to run up a tab yet. We need to set the maximum tab by default. 0 shouldn't be the max.
That's right. And that came, just from feedback. We had members that essentially, wanted 0, but our workaround was, put one instead, but that's not ideal. I think it does make more sense to treat 0 as 0. And for any cases where you want something like unlimited, you can always put, 99 million or whatever the case is.
Yeah. All right. Last couple, Chris. Purchase orders. So on the last update, when it came to purchase orders, there were some nice improvements to make it easier for when I need a change between warehouses and so forth for a supplier, uh, much quicker and more clear. And the same thing when I'm drop shipping to different addresses. So if you're like a promo distributor, you're using contract decorators, you're not always having everything shipped to you. You're having it shipped to different people potentially. Well, Deco's making it a lot easier and cleaner to have all those different potential delivery addresses stored here, define which one is the default, and then change between them as needed.
Yeah, the
Right,
big
Chris?
change here is it's essentially trying to eliminate user error when changing the delivery address for a PO. There are two distinct actions that you can make. You can either change which address is currently selected, or you can modify the currently selected address. And we kept finding that there were cases where people were changing the selected address details rather than changing the selected address, and that was resulting in POs getting sent to where they didn't need to go. So again, this is all about eliminating a little bit of that confusion, making things clearer, more intuitive for the end user.
Yeah, it's pretty clear. Add a new one here, edit this here.
Yeah.
All right, last couple, Chris. One of the fixes is there were a lot of little fixes around embroidery. Embroidery is probably the most difficult decoration method in a way to account for just because it's not print. I mean, it's very different. One thing we were hearing a little bit from Chris was I'd upload a logo and it's supposed to map to the colors of my palette. But, the mapping isn't, oh, we had this RGB value and, oh, look, this is here. It's got to use some mapping brain power to figure out what goes with which. So, correct me if I'm wrong, we've gotten better at mapping colors and displaying them on the production worksheets, the artwork approval sheets, and everywhere else. It's really helpful.
That's right. Yeah, I think you summarized that well. The one place where we added color thread information where it didn't exist before is, like you said, to the artwork approval sheet. So that information is new for that. But in other places, we made several iterations of improvements to try to get that as clean as possible, as accurate as possible.
Okay. Yep. We really want to know what spool of thread we're going to pull. In this case, we're going to grab 1987. When we upload that artwork, we want it to map um, as efficiently as possible. And yeah, Chris, that about sums it up. We've got great updates on the front end of the website, the back end settings for the site, the admin, business hub. Um, it's we're on version 8.610. Software's never finished. It's always evolving. How we decide what comes next, we heavily listen to you users by looking at the feature request. The majority of the features request, I mean, it's incredible how many of these have been tackled. There's always new ones being added. Make sure you're voting. Deco, there might be a great idea here, but what gets added heavily is influenced by votes and so forth. So never stop recommending updates, ideas, features. Just know, just because it's an easy thing to think of or it's a great idea doesn't mean it's extremely easy for Deco to implement. This software is very robust. Every new feature we have to account for everything that's already here. So, very powerful network. We get incredible value for what we pay for the software. I mean, $200, $300, $400 for the enterprise plan is incredible value compared to DecoNetwork's competitors. You could see all these robust features. And one big thing, Chris, to take away: use Deco's AI support. We have great tech support, whether it be through a support ticket or calling. I forget what our statistics are, Chris, but it's in the 90% of requests are answered within just a few hours. But I use Demi, our AI tool, on a daily basis. She's able to crawl all of the information Deco has put out there into the system and be able to draw conclusions. So I use Demi every day. I've used the software for 15 years. She's very helpful. So use Deco's resources. Keep engaging with us as a community. We will keep improving the software based on your input. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today. Hopefully you guys find this video helpful, and look forward to sharing the next release notes with you sometime next spring. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Zach. Take care.